Thank you for lighting up the lamp and commencing the program. A very good morning to everyone here. Our chief guest, Professor Dani, special guest, and retired professor of ISI, Professor Monaranjan Pal, Director of ISI, Professor Shamamitra Gandopadhyay, Dean of Studies, Professor Vishwabrata Pradhan, Vice President, ISI Workers Organization, Dr. Kuntal Ghosh, Chief Executive Officer, Sri Ravinder Kumar, other dignitaries, esteemed guests, colleagues, students, scholars, friends, whoever present here physically and who are joining us virtually, a very good morning and a very warm welcome to the celebration of the 132nd birth anniversary of the founder, Professor Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis, founder of the Indian Statistical Institute, and our very beloved professor. Radhakrishnan had asked, what is greatness? There does not seem to be any measurable quality of it, and yet we recognize it when we meet it. The high minds and brave hearts that press onward to their goal, never doubting, never yielding, have the quality of greatness in them. Rabindranath Tagore says, in every land of every clime, a few men have crystallized into a nucleus of light. Men who have made bold to proclaim that though isolated, they fear none. It is a matter of our proudest privilege here at ISI to find greatness right through the very heart and soul of our beloved institute, greatness that was once personified in our founder director, Professor Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis, greatness that emanated from him and then permeated through the veins and capillaries of his brainchild, our Indian Statistical Institute. Mahalanobis was many things in one. He was a perfect juxtaposition of an honest academician and an exuberant entrepreneur, a thoughtful philosopher and a pragmatic practitioner, an avid administrator and a diligent worker, a careless maverick and a careful mentor, a scrupulous scientist and a dutiful teacher. At a time when statistics was practically unknown in India during the first quarter of the last century, there was no teaching or research in statistics at the universities, no statistical society, no journal of statistics. Official statistics were collected only as a byproduct of the administration. A sudden spurt of statistical activity occurred, which was to put India in the course of a few years at the center of the statistical map of the world. The Indian Statistical Institute was founded by Mahalanobis in 1931 with facilities for high-level research, training, and execution of large-scale project work. Sankhya, the Indian Journal of Statistics, was started in 1933. The new technique of estimating acreage and crop yield by random sampling was worked out and applied to jute in Bengal in 1937. The first Indian Statistical Conference was held in 1938. Postgraduate studies in statistics were opened for the first time in India at Calcutta University in 1941. The Indian Science Congress, which had not recognized statistics as a separate discipline for a long time, included it in the section of mathematics in 1942 and created a separate section for statistics in 1945. A central statistical unit was established by the Government of India in 1949. 2 years later, the Central Statistical Organization, and soon after, the Department of Statistics was created. In 1954, the Prime Minister and the Planning Commission called upon Mahalanobis to initiate studies in planning at the Institute. ISI was recognized as an institute of national importance and permitted to award degrees in statistics by a Central Act in 1959. Training of technicians for statistical quality control started in 1945 at ISI. It goes without saying that such significant achievements within a short span of time would not have been possible without the powerful patronage of Mahalanobis. In 2007, the government of India decided to acknowledge the immense and profound contribution of Mahalanobis by celebrating his birthday, 29 June, as a National Statistics Day every year. Our administration and workers' organization also celebrate 29 June as the Workers' Day at ISI. We see the words Bhinneshwaikasya Darshanam, which is the motto written on ISI's logo. The first word, Bhinneshwaikasya, is a sandhi of two words, Bhinneshu and Aikasya. Bhinneshu means in differences. Aikasya means unity. Darshanam, as we all know, means see. So the motto means see unity in differences, unity in diversity. True to its meaning, ISI is a multifaceted, dynamic, vibrant organization. It functions as a university in its educational programs and degree awarding activity, as a corporation in undertaking large-scale projects, as a firm of consultants for industry to improve productivity, and of course as a center for research and learning at the highest level of excellence, meeting place of scientists, economists, and literary figures from all parts of the world. It also houses a geological museum with a rich collection of paleontological material, including dinosaur fossils. Visitors are often intrigued to find such diverse and unrelated activities, some of which may appear to be far removed from statistics. But to Professor Mahalanobis, such diversification was a necessity, because no discipline is an island. He wanted statistics to be a key technology that can be applied to a myriad of disciplines. In its heyday, at one stage, ISI had many active units, including ones on economics, mathematical statistics, data processing, demography, operations research, sociology, geology, biology and crop science, biometry, human genetics, psychometry, anthropometry, hematology, regional survey, flood research, historical research, linguistics and phonetics, and even a self-supporting unit called Kalyan which with expenses made from the sales of household handicrafts. An institution, Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, is the lengthened shadow of one man. For ISI, that man is its founder, Professor Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis. Let us spend the next couple of hours remembering and paying homage to the phenomenon called Mahalanobis. May I now request ISI Club to open the program with the Rig Vedic hymn that invokes us all to move together, speak together, Sangachatvam, Samvadathvam. Thank you very much for the Vedic hymn creating a spiritual and peaceful ambience for today's program. Let us all move together in unity and harmony. May I now request Dr. Paramita Das, faculty member of the Stats Maths unit and convener of the reception committee, to address the audience today.
On behalf of the reception committee, I welcome you all to the celebration of the 132nd birth anniversary of Professor P.C. Mahalanobis. I am grateful to the ISIWO for giving me the opportunity to pay my tribute to the founding father of our institute. In fact, it is my second time delivering this address, and I felt I needed to live up to their trust in me. However, time was short, so I started my explorations by visiting the archive section of the library to dig out references. Let me mention here that the archive is a treasure trove for materials on the professor, as he is fondly called in ISI. Two people working tirelessly in the archive section, Obhik and Kea Dash, have been very helpful in finding materials for me. I should also thank Professor Orijit Bishnu for sending me several important references. One such reference was a biographical article written in 1997 by Professor C.R. Rao, in which he describes the professor as a physicist by training, statistician by instinct, and a planner by conviction. After teaching physics in Presidency College for over 30 years, the statistical interests of Mahalanobis led him to found the ISI for advanced research and training in statistics and start a new journal, Shankha, both of which enjoy international reputation. Mahalanobis worked in close tandem with the government of Bengal as well as the central government for their sample surveys. An extensive survey to gauge the extent of rural indebtedness in the handloom sector, covering about 8,000 weaving and 2,000 other rural families of Bengal, was carried out in 1936 to 37. The new technique to estimate the yield of crops in a large region by random sampling was worked out and applied to the jute crop in the province of Bengal. Shobhanetra also talked about it, so I guess it's a bit repetitive, but nonetheless. So the next year, 1938, was an important year. It was a turning point in the history of the institute, as the Central Jute Committee needed trained personnel to initiate an exploratory sample survey, and this made way for new recruitments to happen. The eminent statistician R.A. Fisher remarked, "What at first most strongly attracted my admiration was that the professor's work was not imitative. Work of striking originality is rare now, as it was when I first read of the surveys of the jute crop in Bengal." Later, it was Fisher himself who gave strong support to the institute in his memorandum to the Government of India. We must remember that the reason for Mahalanobis' return to India from Cambridge and entry into the realm of statistics was accidental. Due to the outbreak of the First World War, his departure to India had been delayed, and he utilized this time to browse books in the King's College Library, where he came across bound volumes of Biometrica, books that were to alter the course of his life. This is somewhat like the Isaac Newton's apple tree moment, I think, for ISI. However, it proved to be a lifelong struggle to develop statistics in India in the way he visualized. Neither was it recognized by the universities, research institutes, or academic bodies as a separate discipline, nor did other scientists like it. Of course, there were notable exceptions. People like Dr. Brojendranath Sheel or Dr. Neel Ratan Sarkar. The latter was his maternal uncle. And on top of the government bureaucracy, which was allergic to the introduction of new methods and making changes in existing practices, Mahalanobis had to struggle on all fronts with scientists and government officials to advance the cause of statistics in India. The professor believed that the value of science in society lies in its unorthodoxy and ability to challenge accepted concepts and theories. He had a flair for argument and an impatience with bureaucracy, which made him a fighter all his life. He usually had his way. The National Sample Survey was established in 1950 for the collection of socio-economic data through sample surveys covering the entire country to provide information needed by the government for administrative purposes and for the computation of national income. Mahalanobis calculated that half of the population lived on half of a rupee or less per day. It was this deep concern for the economy that drove Mahalanobis to take an active role in planning. Lack of formal training in economics did not prevent him from undertaking a major responsibility in drafting the second five-year plan for India. As a member of the Planning Commission, he sold the idea of making large investments in heavy industries, setting aside other sectors of development, a policy which helped the country considerably in rapid industrialization, although agriculture received a temporary setback. In my explorations, I also came across Nikhil Menon's recent book. The title is quite telling, Planning Democracy, How a Professor, an Institute, and an Idea Shaped India. He writes, the decision to plan the economy brought the problem of big data into prominence. Calculation assumed unprecedented significance. Planners required ever-improving data processing capabilities to utilize the gushing hose of survey data and model the economy through input-output tables. The computer's appeal was its appeal as a solution. The story of computer in India cannot be understood outside the context of planning and national statistics. This is where the story of the computer in the institute needs to be told. The first indigenously designed computer of our country was built in 1953 by Somarendra Kumar Mitra, who was an expert in electronic computer. This was a small electronic analog computer of a novel design evolved in the institute with high speed to solve linear equations in 10 variables. In 1956, on the eve of the 25th anniversary of the institute, came the first digital computer, the HEC-2M, with a capacity of 200 additions or 5 multiplications per second. Two Bengali engineers, Amaresh Roy and Mohi Mukherjee, installed the HEC-2M in 2 months. They went to the workshop of the British Tabulating Machine Company in Letchworth, UK, to observe the manufacture of the machine bound for India. It arrived without any manual, so they had to assemble it based on their notes, relying just on instinct. When it was installed in ISI, a fair number of computational problems were submitted by scientific institutions across the country, including IIT Kharagpur, Indian Academy for the Cultivation of Sciences, PRL Ahmedabad, TIFR Bombay, and other government departments. Being the first digital computer in India, it was a tourist attraction for ministers and other dignitaries. The Ural arrived in Kolkata 2 years later, in 1958, and was inaugurated by a member of the Planning Commission. Unlike the British machine, this one arrived with an instruction manual, but unfortunately they were in Russian. With the help of an interpreter, the Soviet engineers held classes on construction, operation, and maintenance. So the only 2 digital computers of the country at that time were now in Boranagar. Such was the stature that ISI enjoyed in those days. However, as we approach the centenary year of ISI, it is imperative that we do something to preserve this unique legacy. And it is imperative that we do some introspection. What are we doing to carry forward, let alone add value to his beloved institute? Why is its infrastructure crumbling? I will touch upon some areas that are impending day-to-day activities and need urgent attention. First and foremost is the Computer and Statistical Service Center. This was set up following the recommendation of the ISI Review Committee in 1985 by the then director Dr. J.K. Ghosh and was equipped with state-of-the-art computing capabilities. However, it is now critically affected by lack of funds. 80% of the hardware, I'm told, is more than 10 years old and there is no maintenance. If a network switch malfunctions, it plunges our institute into the darkness of pre-internet era. In fact, as we speak, in the middle of peak admission season, we face such outages. The second is a library archive. It is suffering from lack of space and funds that are needed for the archival storage and preservation of materials of profound historical and academic interest, not only to ISI, but to the entire nation. The museum materials were removed from Amropali, the residential building of the professor, which is now in a dilapidated condition, and have not been relocated ever since. The only person trained in conservation and restoration has been relegated to housekeeping because he's a contractual staffer. The Gupta Nivas. This house with a pond and surrounding gardens belonged to Abanindranath Tagore, and he breathed his last there. In 1936, Prashanto, Rani, and Rabindranath Tagore himself came to live here. Visitors from across the country like Subhash Bose, Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay, Raj Shekhar Basu, Sarojini Naidu, Jogendranath Sarkar came to meet the poet. Jawaharlal Nehru met the poet here in 1939 and discussed with him the national anthem of free India. This is the legacy we are carrying, and it is upon us to preserve it. The new academic building, acute lack of space for carrying out teaching and research. As batch sizes gets larger with every passing year, it is increasingly difficult to find classrooms. We hear that the newly constructed building is awaiting fire clearance, but it is not really clear how long the wait is going to be. The last but not the least is the democratic structure of the council. On 26 July 1974, a special general meeting of the institute was convened in which a new memorandum of association, regulations and bylaws were adopted. This was finally implemented in 1976 under the new director Gopinath Kalyanpur. Incidentally, it is also the centenary year for Professor Kalyanpur. Council changed its structure from almost a nominated body to one providing a balance between nominated and elected members. 15 nominated and 13 elected members from amongst the workers and members of the institute. The formation of the council, ensuring democratic participation of all categories of workers in the highest decision-making body, ushered a sense of belonging, confidence, and enthusiasm to the wide strata of stakeholders of the institute that bequeathed a unique strength and solidarity to the institute, which had been at crossroads after the demise of its all-pervasive mentor. In the words of a retired employee, Ajoy Ghosh, to my understanding, this unique process of formulating collective wisdom had been the hallmark and strength of this institute in many aspects of its functioning. Are we really keen on preserving this strength? This is not what it seems when one reads the recent council proceedings about doing away with the elections and downsizing the council. So I wish we do something about our institute and preserve it to its former glory. Thank you.
Thank you, Paramita, for a very introspective talk. A lot of things to think about. Moving on, maybe please felicitate the special guests for today morning. May I request Srimoy Bhomik from the Director's Office to please felicitate our chief guest, Professor Sri Krishna Gopal Rao Dani. Thank you. May I now request Monali Mitropalodhi, Deputy Librarian, to please felicitate Professor Monoranjan Pal. Thank you very much, Srimoy and Monali. Moving ahead, an ideal successor of Mahalanobis in his true spirit, there's no one better suited to lead the organization with the vision and determination that Professor Shanghamitra Bandyopadhyay has. Shanghamitra Bandyopadhyay is a Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize winner in Engineering Science for 2010, Infosys Prize 2017 laureate in the Engineering and Computer Science category, and was the World Academy of Sciences Prize winner for Engineering Sciences in 2018. She has been the director of ISI since 2015 and is the first woman director of the Institute. Currently, she is on the Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council. In 2022, she was given the Padma Shri Award for Science and Engineering by the Government of India. May I now request her to please come to the podium and deliver the welcome address. Thank you.
Good morning to all of you. Chief guest of today's event, Professor Dani, our special guest, Professor Pal, other colleagues on and off the dais, scholars, students, members of the press, and all guests of the Institute, ladies and gentlemen. A very happy ISI Workers' Day and National Statistics Day to all of you. 29th June. It's an occasion to celebrate the birthday of our founder, to rejoice in the journey of the Institute that we have all walked together, an occasion to celebrate our successes, an occasion to take stock of where we were not so successful and to introspect and make course corrections, and an occasion to lay out a new shared vision and a roadmap along with the resolve to proceed on that roadmap in order to achieve global leadership in all our activities. With our commitment, cooperation, hard work, I'm sure we will be able to achieve the goals that we set ourselves and meet the expectations of the nation and the demands of our disciplines. Born in 1893 in Kolkata, Mahalanobis studied and taught physics. A chance encounter with statistics led him to establish ISI in 1931 at an age of 38. It is exhilarating to imagine the courage, the vision, and the belief in excellence that drove Mahalanobis to establish ISI in those days and employing people to be paid salaries without having any assurance from the government. It was only in 1959 that the government decided to provide funds to run the affairs of the Institute. That sustains us even to this day. The excellence and diversity of disciplines that Mahalanobis embodied has been the driving force behind all our activities. I have just recently returned from a visit to the Stanford University and also visited to other US universities. I was so very happy to note that the respect that ISI commands internationally continues. This institute is viewed very differently and positioned uniquely by experts in and outside the country. This year, the Government of India has adopted the theme 75 Years of National Statistical Survey as its theme for celebrating the National Statistics Day. National Sample Survey was started in 1950 by the Government of India. Mahalanobis's contribution in those initial days of National Sample Survey and in setting up the statistical system of the country in general was immense, and the world looked up to the Indian statistical system for its depth and rigor. The discipline of data science that has caught the attention of the world in the recent past is what ISI has been doing possibly since its inception. The statistics and other academic programs designed in the institute all ingrain the principles of data science in them. The research carried out in the institute balances fundamental studies with applications. Much of it will now be categorized as data science or data-driven science and data-driven policymaking. ISI has been doing well. The world is now at a juncture where things are changing very fast, with AI and machine learning taking over endeavors, even those that were traditionally considered human. In this rapidly changing landscape, where should we position ourselves? Are we ready to take on the world? We also need to now take stock and understand how we will remain leaders in this era and also in the future. As has already been pointed out, there are multiple constraints that the Institute faces, its fund, and many other constraints. There are two ways in which we can understand these things, or what we can do something about these things is one, we keep on complaining, and the other, we do something about it. What can we do in this situation where funds are really a bottleneck? What can we do to sustain ourselves, and not only sustain, but to excel? So it is a time, as has already been mentioned earlier, to introspect, to celebrate and consider our successes, be happy about it, be joyous about it, but also to lay out a roadmap of how to conduct ourselves in the future so that these constraints can be addressed to a large extent. I think this is a crucial juncture because the world really is changing rapidly. How do we remain relevant and excel and keep our position as leaders, not only in India, but in the world? And I'm sure once we all put our minds together, we will find a way. ISI has always found a way. Constraints have been there all the time. There was never a time where there were no problems. But it is these problems that will challenge our resilience. Let us all think together, work together, and make commitment and make a pledge that in the future we will find solutions. We will, of course, look at problems, but we will find solutions to the problems and remain excellent. I thank all of you here for coming here, for attending this event, and for enjoying together this celebration of the 132nd birth anniversary of Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis, who remains an icon and who remains our driving force, I must say, even to this day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Bandyopadhyay, for a very insightful and thought-provoking address. May I now request Professor Bishobrat Pradhan, Professor SQC and OR Unit, and Dean of Studies ISI, to please address the audience gathered here today. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Director Professor Sanghamitra Bandyopadhyay, special guest Professor Manoranjan Pal, and chief guest Professor Sri Krishna Gopal Rao Dani, and other dignitaries, and my colleagues, students, research scholars, visitors, ladies and gentlemen. So we are basically celebrating this 132nd birth anniversary of Professor Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis. We celebrate it every year, and that birth anniversary. But what we are possibly not following, we are not celebrating basically his works. That we discuss, I mean, we discuss in many forums, but actually in planned manner, his works are not celebrated. Not only that, his, path of vision and his path to progress, whatever it is there that we are lacking, actually, we are not following that. I will just mention certain things, actually, what the problems we are facing, how do we go, how do we tackle that? One of the things I think director has also mentioned about that lack of fund. You see that we know what is the objective of this institute. Everybody knows that, possibly that is mentioned in the MOA. I think I am not going to read that fully. To promote the study and dissemination of knowledge of statistics, to develop study, find that this object has now changed basically. Every day whenever we work, we see that lack of fund, and it has now become an imperative that we have to earn money. That is what we can see, because we stuck everywhere. In fact, a few days back, we found that the students, in fact, our faculties, they are not getting the laptops, which is essential now. And many other, these computing facilities, we are not able to provide to the research scholars. All these things, where we start, there's a lack of fund. Now, if this continues, really, how do we progress? How do we fulfill this objective? That we need to see. And as it is mentioned about this, that really that infrastructure, which has enough studies, what I can see, how comfortably this, say, classroom facility, all this, whatever that facilities are required, that we can provide. But when you see every year this admission session starts, when this will be, we are actually excited to get these new students, but the thing is that, do we have enough space? So this year, for example, I don't know really how these visited first year students, they will be accommodated for their class, because we do not know really at all. Maybe silently I am thinking, okay, if less number of students come, that we would be able to accommodate them. That should not be the objective of the institute. And every year that's the problem. Classrooms, all these computing facilities, I think about this internet facility, whatever it is there, that is a problem. Now, there are other issues like this. I am mentioning the issues so that we can take care of this and we can move forward by, at least by tackling this problem. Let's talk about certain administrative issues. You see, for running these programs, all these things, we have to do certain administrative works. But the way we are moving, this administrative procedure is so lengthy and tiring, I would say. You give a proposal, and that proposal, it seems like that I am the examinee and we are sending it to the examiner. We do not know when that approval will come, because there will be a lot of these notings, and it so happen that one sheet, that's not enough. In backside, we put all these notes, etc. That way, really, we cannot move. If we really need some approval or whatever it is there that is required, so let us, we need that help from the administration. How do we do it really without all this problem? How do we do about it? Because everywhere we show these rules. Instead of doing something, we go for, first we show that this is the rule. We forget about what is our objective, what is to be done. Rather, first we show that this is the rule. Yeah, now we are stuck. Now, if this way really continues, really we would be able to progress. Because another thing is, you see, for doing this administrative work, we need the help of faculties. They have to do this, all this academic administration or whatever it's there. But if this way it continues, really nobody will show interest also. We cannot run the programs. Run the programs effectively. We have, over the years, we have grown up. Many academic programs has been incorporated, but for running this program, really we need people. So we are in shortage of faculty. We are unable to attract talent. Even if some faculties are joining, we are unable to provide their startup grants, we are unable to provide their computing facilities, then how do we move really? This introspection is required, but we need it immediate solution for this. So I think this institute must have able leadership who can guide us. Really, how do we move forward? I want to, since we are celebrating this birthday of Professor Mahalanobis, and I'll talk about another point. You see, ISI had this IJAC, the International Statistical Education Center, that established in 1950, I think. UNESCO empowers it to train statisticians from developing countries. But if we see beyond that, actually, really, we didn't think about that. Really, these foreign students, they can come to ISI, they can work, they can be trained. There are certain, you see, now we have really a lot of this burdens or whatever we say, that there are difficulties to recruit, these foreign students, all these rules and all these things that's there. So how do we go about it? Is it that, the way we are moving it is something we can say we are shrinking basically. You can see this foreign collaborators. We do not see many. Earlier maybe there were, but now we do not see. Even we cannot organize conference. Indian Statistical Institute, where that conferences on statistics. Do we see that? Even for organizing conferences, we see, you see, there also nobody shows interest because all these administrative hurdles, I would say. If you want to do it, first of all, that fund, maybe 1 lakh will be given, and then you have to earn that money. Naturally, nobody shows interest. How do you do that? So, what my expectation, or maybe, we want that let Indian statistical open to the, let it be open to the world. You see, our students, our PhD students, they go for postdoctoral fellowship, something to abroad, but we do not encourage it. We can, why can't we take foreign students, foreign postdoctoral fellows to our institute? Can we not do that? Why not? You see, sometimes I remember that we used to have few foreign students, but now it has been totally stopped. So can we not think about it? How can we start it again? How can we open it for the foreign students also? Like you see, we have this IJAC where foreign students are studying from these developing countries. So can we not do that in near future, that, okay, foreign students will also get the opportunities to go through different programs of this institute. And also these collaborators will come, will visit ISI, collaborative work. So what's happening basically that we are visiting to different universities, but we do not encourage faculties from other countries to visit ISI. I think that environment or that ambience should be there so that they can also visit and that collaboration can be started. This is what my expectation, at least on this 132nd birth anniversary of Professor Prashant Chandra Mahalanobis. Let us think new and let us do something so that we can move forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Pradhan, for again a very thought-provoking, introspective talk. We really need to streamline processes such that problems of administrative red tapeism and bureaucratic bottlenecks can be simplified for enhancing the academic ambience at the institute. Thank you very much for your talk. May I now request Dr. Kuntal Ghosh, faculty member at the Machine Intelligence Unit and Vice President ISIWO, to please address the audience today. Thank you.
I thank the reception committee for giving me this opportunity. And of course, I give my highest regards to the chief guest, Professor Dani, to the special guest, Professor Pal, the director of the institute, the president of this institute, the dean of studies, and our chief executive administration and finance. Now people are talking very seriously about a lot of problems, about the crisis, and being part of union and a speaker on behalf of union, I am supposed to amplify it further. I shall try to take a slightly different route. I shall try to be more philosophical and the ambience of this situation, but I shall try to deal with the problems to the extent that we understand it as part of ISIWO. Points have come up through this discussion today. One is the question of inclusivity that Professor Paramita Das raised, Sumonetra also raised. And another very important question is the practical issue of how to run the institute in the present situation. I think it's very known word these days. You write proposals, research proposals. There are research grant agencies who seek inclusivity in the collaboration. Whether in the different genders, the different right? So from statistics, there are persons from mathematics, there are persons from computer science, there are persons from economics. So inclusivity is a very broad word, and inclusivity is very important for ISR, particularly from its slogan of unity in diversity. Class, bring up late 70s and early 80s. Different meanings of inclusivity and various meanings of this word that is changing today. Remember the 1980 Moscow Olympics. Was the ending, the ending of Moscow Olympics 1980. And in the Olympics, it regained its hockey gold medal after many years. 1980 Moscow Olympics, behind India's success was a story. What was that story? No, I am not talking about the fantastic stick work of Muhammad Shahid or the Captain Bhaskara. I am talking about politics. What was the story of politics at that time? The Moscow Olympics was boycotted by 66 countries led by the United States of America. In hockey, there was no content like Australia, there was no content like Netherlands, like West Germany or Pakistan. And India defeated Spain in the final. Olympics in 1980, it was against the Afghan war that started in 1979. Against Russia and the Afghanistan, against the mercenaries, against the revolting Mujahideen, and countries like USA were right in support of Mujahideen against the government and the Afghan government. Was a different story. I'm not going into that. People condemned war. I'm getting to the point. Condemned war, the boycott of Olympics was the right time. By USA against the Afghan government and Russia was the right time. That is a different issue. People condemned killing, and we also condemn killing. The mass destruction that is going on in this world, killing of innocent persons in various parts of the world. I do not know how many children are being in Gaza, how many children are being killed in Russian-Ukraine border. We do not know that. So, in which we grew up, in which there was a Soviet bloc that went for the Olympics, in which there was a US-led bloc that boycotted the Olympics. And we grew up. There is a different powerful section too, and that is what bipolarity meant to us. And bipolarity with nature, with knowledge of physics. Whether in electricity or magnetism, there is bipolarity. We know that bipolarity exists. Nucleus through the balance of forces. Bipolarity exists in Newtonian mechanics, also the balance of forces. So that is a very important thing. Contrary views are a very important thing. And diversity means different views that cross the spectrum, maybe with an extreme pole at one end, maybe with another extreme pole at the other end. But it is healthy, it is important. This spectrum is important, this discussion is important, this dialogue is important. And we grew up in a bipolar world. So today, we find that nobody is there to work when the Gaza children are being killed, or when some other people are dying, people are talking about this Mahalanobis commitment to national development and social welfare, to hunger, to eradicating the poverty. The need of the hour is such people. The need of the hour is such situation in this world. As our honorable director rightly says, time is changing. It is a different time we are now living in, right? Concerned about things going on elsewhere. People are more concerned about different issues now. And that is the situation now in this world. So, in the world, a different philosophy has now emerged. There are now no more contending opposites. Now it is the age of Superman. And now it's not night. And go to sleep. And go to sleep. Sleep, he wakes up and then gives some gully, gives some abusive language, it will not stop, something like that. So the children like us, who grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, who were accustomed to contending views, accustomed to opposites, accustomed to unity of opposites. But now there is no unity of opposites. This is the age of Superman. And this is the new order. Listen to the Superman. Listen to one line with that. This is the change in time. This is the change in situation. Professor Mahalanobis stand in this discussion. Was he a Superman? Was he a towering personality with no opposite views? No, it was not the situation, even in his domain of statistics. His large-scale sample survey method, he applying it in agriculture. Mahalanobis had been applying these, as Paramita has rightly pointed out, or Soumitra has also rightly pointed out. Mahalanobis has been applying these in Egypt in the 1930s. Mahalanobis tried to apply, but the government declined, the British government declined. Actually, Mahalanobis the impending family, because aggression was coming in face of the impending Japanese aggression. The government was destroying various means of transport. And the lifeline of Bengal, the boats, even those were being destroyed for of Japanese aggression. Some people call it the Kotchat policy. Right? So, he understood this. So the survey on padding is very important to be conducted. But British government was not interested. Mahalanobis didn't want to displease, not that Mahalanobis didn't want to displease. He understood its importance, he fought for it, but it was not allowed. That Mahalanobis from British government and still stuck to his point. faced opposition in independent India also. Despite him being a towering personality in the United Nations Statistical Commission, forming the PSM, forming the PSO, forming the Department of Statistics, in our Prime Minister's cabinet, right? As the statistical advisor. When did he face the opposition? He faced the opposition from a colleague, from a co-statistician, Professor Sukhavai. Survey in agriculture. Survey in agriculture has to rely on government officials and not on an independent body like NSS. Debate was healthy. The debate was there. Professor Gagnon supported Sukhavai. It was not supported. They were there in the Government Policies Institute in Pune. They had a different view about survey in agriculture. Statistics was different by Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR. Mahalanobis also had his share. Mahalanobis also one part of the debate. His sample survey overall was accepted. His planning activity was overall accepted. In the industry, the surveys were conducted in Mahalanobis method. So nobody was a Superman. In this age, people are relying upon the Superman view. That was not the age at that time. Even Mahalanobis had lived with opposition. Opposition is a very healthy thing in society, in democracy, in organization, and everywhere. Opposition enriches debates. Opposition enriches our thought process, or opposition enriches our intellect. So we have to learn to deal with opposition. So that's why I think that this thing that Mahalanobis we are left with. Paramita was mentioning about the structure of governing council. I shall try to talk about it, as I said, in a more philosophical way. I shall try to talk about it from the point of view of unity of opposites that I established in the pre-Second World War and post-Second World War world. The unity of opposites, the Soviet bloc and the US bloc. Mahalanobis left us with, finally after his death, we had a director at the helm of the institute. And the council, right? So the director is not all powerful. This is the council. Here also, how the director is actually running the institute, what he or she should actually. And we pointed out there is a bunch of eminent professors whom we call professor in charge, head of centers, etc. There's a bunch of external professors also. And in the council, there is government officials on one hand, and there is the ISI as the unity of opposites. There is the ISI Act on the other hand, which defines the role of the chairman of the institute. And that chairman is not appointed by the government. So there is a government official. At the head of the council, there is a chairman who is not appointed by the government, right? So just like we say, we have to face conflicting views. We also love to live with conflicting views. We love from conflicting views. And as I told, age is changing. It is the age of the Superman. It is the age of the leader of a nation trying to stop us. It is the age of impatience. It is the age where Dickens said, it is the best of the times, it is the worst of the times. It is like that. It is the age of impatience where we are, instead of the debate, instead of going in the dialogues, we try to change the rule itself that is inviting the debate. We try to change the structure itself that is inviting the opposition. And it is not only true for ISI Council. We see the same thing in this entire country. One nation, one rule. One nation, one governance. It is like that. So basically, it is this philosophy of Superman. There will be one super leader who will do everything, and if there is too much opposition, you just carve or smash that opposition. That is the approach that the present philosophy is trying to take shape. And it is sad. A child is being brought up under this situation. It is not bipolar world situation in which the child is growing. It is this proper situation in which the child is growing. And so the child's mind also, such attitude is bound to be ingrained rather than an attitude of debate, rather than an attitude of learning to live with opposition, learning to respect the opposition. So I mentioned about one nation, one rule. Yes, it is going to be uttered very soon. I'm apprehensive. And what would have happened if in ISI, one person sent by Professor Satyendranath Bose, whose name was Ratanlal Brahmachari, he came here, he was solving some gravitational equations and massive field equations with Professor Satyendranath Bose, and SN Bose sent him to Mahalanobis. And when he came to, this is I heard from Professor RLB himself. And when he came to Mahalanobis's room, Mahalanobis asked, "What do you want to do?" And RLB said, "I want nothing. I want a gamla. You know, big tub in Bengali we call gamla. I want a gamla. I want some pipe. And through that pipe, some water will fall on the gamla's water. And water will drop by drop. And I will just watch that." What does this mean? He wanted to do some deep-rooted mathematics and physics, which is brought in this simple event. And what did Mahalanobis say? He didn't say how many papers you have. He didn't say what preparation you have to do all this. He said, "Okay, young man, go and do it." If you change his field from that to embryology, and he changed it from embryology to pheromone, what would have happened in these days if a one nation, one government e-market, he had to embryological instruments at that point of time? What would have happened to the biological research that he has conducted at that time? I doubt whether James in ISI would have born in this way. So I don't go much further in my talk, but one point has to be remembered. Continuous insistence upon one point, that how productive is your research, cannot research forward. Because for some person, technology comes from vacuum. No, technology doesn't come from vacuum. Technology requires advancement of basic science. Something also I don't believe it. Long before Newton came, long before Bernoulli came, long before Galileo came, without the basic science development, the basic mathematics development, the basic physics development, how can the Pushpakrat? So they are not. This is a technology. So this technology, how productive your research is, that is how much technology you are producing, and that stands the basic science. Without the basic science, can we go ahead in this way? The introspections we have to make, and basic science requires investment. Basic science requires time. Basic science, Professor Ari, what was conducting, watching drops falling on the gamma, it would have been found as blue sky research. That is one of the most important phenomena in physics and mathematics, which he was trying to decipher. Since I told that it's charging the funding agencies to a unified funding agency. Now it is called the Sandhan National Research Foundation. Changing names is very good, but are you changing the attitude? Are you investing in GDP share? When India was a nascent democracy after independence, that same GDP share, India was not a GDP at that time, and today we are saying $2, and we can't invest in science. I mean, invest in science like all developed nations do. Precisely the point, that is precisely where we need leaders who can spread this out to the government. I started with hockey and end with cricket. There was an interview in which Sunil Manohar Gavaskar once said, West Indian person Vivian Richards is some competitor on field, but off field he's a fantastic friend. So someone asked, did Vivian Richards ever sledge him, Sunny? So Sunny said, hesitatingly only once. And what was that event? The event was like that Gavaskar in that case was coming at town, not in his usual opening slot. What happened in his very first over, Malcolm Marshall removed Usman Gaikwad by the fourth ball. And the very next ball, Dilip Vengsarkar, who came at one down, was removed also by Malcolm Marshall. So Gavaskar, who was now down, had to come into opening over itself and first that's the ball of Malcolm Marshall. So he faced it well. And then the field changes from this wicket to that wicket. And Vivian Richards was running from the slip of this end to the slip of this end. And while passing Gavaskar, he said, no matter what all ultimately the scoreboard shows zero. So Gavaskar remembers this beautifully. But what we also remember is that what the cosmetic changes are taking place in this country, no matter what this one research foundation, one research change, no matter how much all these questions come, at the end of the day, you have to make real deep-rooted change. So we need what Gavaskar did not say. He didn't want to push himself, but he didn't say we should know. It was Sunil Gavaskar, situation of India in West Indies. It was the first time that India won a series against West Indies, defeating some West Indian pacers in 1970. In one 5 runs, Gavaskar scored 774 runs. And not only that, India achieved 400 plus total for the first time in world history in 4 innings. So people can change. People can change if they can show the question, if they can show the right question, and if they can show the challenge. The people they know everything. The need of the hour, and I think leadership is required. Can know that we do not do everything. We have to learn from the people. We have to learn how much than you are in politics. If you want to run the science, if you want to run you have to learn from the people, and that includes the scientists, that includes the social scientists, and learn from them. You will learn how to run a country. This challenge before the Malcolm Marshalls. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh, for a very fiery and historic speech, and I agree we should agree to disagree. Moving on, may I please request the dignitaries on stage to please be seated in the gallery because there's going to be a presentation. So, moving on, Monaranjan Pal will be presenting, right? He will be using the PowerPoint. Yes, please. Yes. So, no one knows ISI better than Professor Monaranjan Pal, who joined ISI in 1970 as a BStat student and has thereafter been associated with ISI in various capacities as BStat, MStat, and PhD student, and then a faculty member. And even after his superannuation in 2018, he's still teaching in the MSQE and BSDS courses in ISI, a relationship of about 55 years. No wonder ISI runs through his veins. He served the institute in many capacities like head of ERU, Economic Research Unit, professor in charge SSD, Social Science Division, member secretary of ISEC. He has worked extensively in statistics, econometrics, development economics, sociology, anthropology, biology, ecology, and environment, and has made some fundamental contributions in econometrics. He is well-known expert on poverty and inequality in India. His books are household names to econometricians, and his books are probably the only ones where all the empirical illustrations are based on Indian data, which are of enormous help to students and teachers. And beyond what his CV says, of course, he's an academician par excellence. Being personally acquainted with him because I am a much faculty in the same area, Economic Research Unit. I would just like to share some personal experience. I had a student who did an MSc project under me. It was during COVID times, so he was based in Delhi. And when I was speaking, he had hardly worked on the project and had a good mind to give him a failing grade. But came to me and said, please wait. And for evenings, not just 1 or 2 days, for every virtually sit with this person via Google Meet or Zoom, I don't know, and mentor him, got his project done, and then he not only got a satisfactory grade, it was not satisfactory, the project to be, but the kind of patience and kindness and commitment and dedication that he had for students, and he give me a fraction of that, kindness and patience, I'd be really grateful. I was not saying the student was mine, he was just on the committee, but he is exceptionally committed and dedicated and kind and generous. So I was very touched to, I was an ASK student when he was in the area, but somehow I hadn't taken any of his course. I came to know her much closely after I joined as a faculty. Sir has worked under Professor Mahalanobis, and we are very fortunate to have him amongst us today. He will share his experiences with us today, and the title of his talk is Professor Mahalanobis, ISI, and the People Around Me. Sir.
Thank you, Somunitra, but she accelerated many things. My regards to the dignitaries present here and all ISI workers and students who are present here. Just a few days back, I came to know that ISI got the, from ABP Anand শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠান হিসাবে বেস্ট শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠান হিসাবে পুরস্কার পেয়েছে। Congratulations to Bishwat Pradhan, Dean of Studies. In fact, Dean of Studies, what he said here, some of the points he raised, I think everybody should think of it. And এই সব সমস্যার সমাধান না হলে কিন্তু ISI এর উন্নতি সম্ভব নয়। My topic is Professor Prashant Chandra Mahalanobis, Indian Statistical Institute, and the people around me in ISI. I will speak in English, but sometimes I may speak in Bengali also. In fact, one of the speakers have already told about the logo of ISI, the unity of diversity. let me skip it. As a student, I had the opportunity to learn from outstanding educators such as General Nikhil Bhattacharya, V.P. Odikari, V.V. Menon, T.A. Davis, and others, and immensely benefited from their teachings. You can see the logo of ISI, Unity in Diversity. Now, let me start with narrating an experience from the first class as a visitor student. Then the teacher entered the classroom with a cigarette in hand. It was Professor Ashok Mitra, a renowned mathematics teacher. He taught us about Russell's paradox. I did not understand anything about it. I previously enrolled in Motijil College. I could lose the chance of at ISI. I thought about leaving from ISI to pursue my physics honors degree at Motijil College. Fortunately, the other classes were not as difficult as this one, so I remained in ISI. The MSTET and PhD program, I was able to interact with my classmates, instructors, and ISI staff. It was a wonderful period in my life. I played carom, cards, and football, and was very passionate about games. At the conclusion of each year, we would organize a party in the hostel and extend invitations to our teachers. Now I receive invitations as an educator. It is a wonderful custom. The teachers would visit our hostel campus and engage in a range of academic and non-academic activities alongside us. The same tradition prevails now. Our relationships with ISI workers were very cordial. Students could participate in the ISI club sports, even competitions of football, cricket, card games, volleyball, etc. I recall playing football alongside Ashok Chatterjee, and several others. Satyanaranjan would serve as referees. Department with any issues, the relevant staff promptly entered assistance. During the football and cricket seasons, the organized to tidy the field. Electrical issues are promptly addressed by the electrical maintenance office. This did not teach our batch. He took great interest in the BSTAT and MSTAT courses. He would sometimes come to a class and interact with the students. I remember in our first year of BSTAT, he entered our class, and after some introduction, he asked us the question, is statistics a branch of probability? He said that he had visited the University College London some years ago. At the UCL, he visited a bookstore named Dion's and picked up a recently published book on statistics. The first sentence of the book, he told us, statistics is a branch of probability. He started learning statistics and probability, and none of us could readily answer him. He paused for a moment and said, I shall come again to get your views. He has a very characteristic way of speaking. I cannot imitate him. It is one of Professor who had Professor Mahalanobis to our class to collect written answers and to send to him. We submitted our answers in writing to Professor Ghosh. The reaction of Professor Mahalanobis to our answers was never conveyed to us. The life of PCM and other things have already been told by many of us. Received his early schooling at the Brahma Boys School in Calcutta, graduating in 1908. He joined the Presidency College, then affiliated with University of Calcutta, where he was taught by teachers including Jagadish Chandra Bose and Pula Chandra Rai. After attending a year junior and Subhash Chandra Bose, who was junior to him. Mahalanobis received a Bachelor of Science degree with honors in physics in 1912, and he left for England in 1913. PCM went to England in 1913 and completed the tripos in mathematics and natural science, mainly physics. Completed college, Cambridge, and returned to India in July 1915. He in the complete set of biometric volumes. Papers in biometric. He developed an interest in anthropometry and subsequently made very profound contributions to the field. He was interested in determining whether PCM group is closer to a group than to yet another group. Such questions he developed a measure of distance known as Mahalanobis square. This is one of his major contributions in the field of statistics. PCM and his team conducted large-scale anthropometric surveys and applied various statistical techniques, including the discrete statistics. Using interpenetrating network of subsamples to estimate the estimates. Involved in factorial graphical analysis in his last few years. MGL is a method of comparing distributions. It provides a graphical way to visualize and compare distributions for identification of differences across various kinds of the covariance. Now, let me narrate an incident. I mean, this is about factorial graphical analysis that led me to work on that game for about a month. Mr. Class for the second time. We knew his position in ISI and stood up immediately. He asked us to sit down and they said, if any of you want to have practical experience on statistics, invite me at my office examination, after examination, and you will earn some pocket money as well. We had about a month vacation after the examination. Jagadish Shah, my classmate, agreed to do the work. It is true that we needed some money, but I was also eager to know the type of work he wanted us to do. After the examination, we too went to Amrapali to meet him. Mr. Swarup Malati, a very amicable person, was then posted at Amrapali. He took us to Professor and introduced us to him. He looked at us and said in his characteristic manner, very well, start working from tomorrow. Swarup will explain you what you have to do we should work. We need to wait and meet Sharad Babu. He explained everything to us. In this graph, there are lines drawn in the area between the lines by counting the small squares. Square is not easy. A full square, more squares, half squares, and less than half squares inside the two lines. We have to convert them into the number of full squares. Sharad explained to us how to do it. We started working as he instructed. Later we discovered that this involves calculations for graphical analysis. After a few days, I felt bored. We did the same counting process repeatedly. After some thought, it clicked in my mind. Why not use formula? Not difficult. If we position it along the x-axis, each position is either a set of two triangles or a trapezium. Depending on the two lines intersect or not. Two different formulas, and I developed both of them. And then we met Sharad Babu and said, "Sir, counting squares is boring. We have formulas to find the areas between two lines." When I taught him the formula, Sharad Babu looked at it and said, "Keep the formula with me. I shall verify them and let you know tomorrow." The next day, Sharad Babu looked very excited. He called us and said, "If formulas are okay, I shall meet sir and talk to him." After some time, sir entered the office and we saw Sharad Babu approaching him. Sharad Babu politely told Professor, "Sir, we have formulas to find the areas between the two lines. Instead of counting, we can use these formulas." Professor looked at the formulas, glanced at Sharad Babu, and then said in his characteristic way, "Do you think that you know more than I do?" Sharad Babu mumbled, No, sir. I said, আমি বলছি সেটাই করো." Sharad Babu returned to his office trembling. Now, giving his formula, Professor did not agree to use the formula. And years, I am convinced that we wanted to help the needy students in this way. Mahalanobis was a friend of India's Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. He and Nehru had met Tagore to discuss India's independence and wanted to set up a government for Indians. When India became independent and Nehru, independent India's first Prime Minister, a planning commission was set up in Delhi to evolve a planning economy. Experience was instrumental in formulating India's strategy for industrialization in second five-year plan, as already been told by Somanatra and others, Paramita, I think. The second five-year plan, we emphasized industrialization on the basis of two-sector model. The Mahalanobis was employed to work towards the industrialization of India. He founded ISA in 1931. It became a leading research and training institute in statistics. He also established International Statistical Education Center to provide special courses in statistics to participants from other countries. He was the chairman of the board of directors of ISAC since its inception till his demise in 1972. Incidentally, I happened to be the member secretary of ISAC for about 10 years, starting from 1999. The Indian Statistical Institute publishes Shankha, the Indian Journal of Statistics, founded by Prashant Chandra Mahalanobis in 1933. Its editor till his death. Deepak Kumar Day is now the editor-in-chief of Shankha, and he was my classmate in our BSTEP course. Contributions, I mean, the list is very large. Okay, so I stopped giving the whole list. Contributions, Mahalanobis has been considered the father of statistics in India since 2007. Every year, June 29 is celebrated as National Statistics Day in India to commemorate the birth anniversary of P.C. Mahalanobis and his contributions to statistical science and planning. It was issued by India in 1993. Prashant Chandra Mahalanobis on the centenary of his birth. And you can see this stand here. 125 births in anniversary on 29 June 2018. Indian Vice President and Venkataya Raidu released a commemorative coin at a program at ISI Kolkata. And this is the coin you can see. In fact, at that time, a proof set was released. In that proof set, two coins are there, one like this, and another coin rupees 125. Okay, bigger than this. And I have a copy of it. I mean, a set, proof set. This year, I interacted with the mathematical genius Srinivasa Ramanujan. Both men were in Cambridge during the same period and became friends. In 1914, P.C. Mahalanobis gave him a problem. I mean, I'm narrating an incident which I liked. In English magazine Strand, the problem to determine the number X of a particular on a street, houses are numbered 1, 2, 3, up to n, say. With number X, and the property that the sum of those numbers to the left of X equal the sum of the house numbers to the right of X. And what is the value of X? N being in between 50 and 500. To make the problem simpler, example of 8 houses numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. X in this case is because to the left of 6, we have 1, 3, 4, 5, which sum to 15. Going to the right of 6, this we have 7 and 8, and 7 plus 8 again 15. So the left side sum is the same as the right side sum. Mahalanobis figured the solution through trial here in a few minutes. Ramanujan figured it out, but with a twist. Ramanujan dictated a continued fraction. The numerators and denominators of the convergence to the continued fraction get all solution of n and x to the problem. In the second problem, n equal to the simple that I have just 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 8, the n equal to 8 and the solution x is 6. Before 6, the sum of numbers is same as after 6. Other number x cannot be found for all n. If n equal to 7, then we do not have any solution for x. Given the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we do not have any x. So the sum of numbers left of x equals the sum of numbers right of x. Starting puzzle is 204. One easily verify that the sum of numbers to the left of 204 equals the sum of numbers to the right of 204 when n equal to 288. 500 constraint, there are many more. Lagrange's continued fraction contained within a single expression all the correct answers. Mahalanobis was astonished. How did you do it? He asked. As soon as the problem, it was clear that the solution should obviously be a continued fraction. And the answer just came to my mind. This is Prashant Chandra Maurya's Nirmala Kumari Mahalanobis with Rabindranath Tagore that it was taken in 1925. And this is another, which you can see, Nirmala Kumari Mahalanobis, Prashant Chandra Maurya and Rabindranath Tagore with others. Now, this is the last slide I have. On the 28th of June 1972, I heard the news of the demise of PCM. I do not remember how, possibly through the radio. The distance from my home to ISI is approximately 5 kilometers. I did not have any money with me, so I walked all the way to the institute. In front of the Amrapalli building, there was a small gathering. I looked into the room on the eastern side of the Amrapalli building. Our professor was lying there. Only his face could be seen. The body was covered with heaps of flowers. Many flower bouquets are there with names written on tags, Embassy of Japan, Consulate General of Soviet Union, and so on. I nearly cried. Just a few months ago, I had worked under him. So many countries honored him with names and flower bouquets. I realized that I had come to the right institute as a learner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Pal, for a very nostalgic and emotional talk. Moving on to the talk of our chief guest for today's event. Kant stated the chief problems of life in the form of three questions. What can I know? What ought I to do? What may I hope for? These seem to be exactly the questions that Mahalanobis chased throughout his very active academic life, from pioneering applications of statistical techniques to practical problems like the Hirakud Dam on Mahanadi, estimation of jute crop yield in Bengal, report on Bengal famine, and so on. Promoter of the statistical quality control movement for improvement of industrial products, and the architect of the India's second five-year plan. We look forward to learning more about him from our chief guest of our evening, very distinguished and renowned mathematician, Professor Sri Krishna Gopal Rao Dani. Professor Dani had a long and fruitful career at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, TIFR, Mumbai, from August 1969 until June 2012, when he retired as distinguished professor. Subsequently, he was affiliated with the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay, for 5 years, and since July 2017 has been with the University of Mumbai Department of Atomic Energy, UMDAE, Center for Excellence in Basic Sciences, Mumbai, and is currently the chair of the School of Mathematical Sciences at the center. He has made extensive research contributions in many areas of mathematics, including ergodic theory, dynamics, number theory, and measures on groups, contributing well over 100 papers in international journals. He has also written many articles on the history of mathematics in India of ancient as well as recent times. The awards received by him include the Mathematical Sciences Prizes of TWAS, the World Academy of Sciences, the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, and the Srinivasa Ramanujan Medal of the Indian National Science Academy. He is a fellow of TWAS and all the three National Academies of Science in India, INSA, Indian National Science Academy, Delhi, IASC, Indian Academy of Science, Bengaluru, and NASI, National Academy of Sciences, India, Allahabad. He is an honorary fellow at the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and an honorary member of the Marathi Vigyan Parishad. He was a member of the National Board of Higher Mathematics from 1996 to 2015 and its chairman during 2006 to 2011. He was also president of the Commission for Development and Exchange of the International Mathematical Union during 2007 to 10, president of the Indian Mathematical Society during 2014-15, and has served on governing and advisory bodies of several institutions. He was president of Indian Society of History of Mathematics, ISHM, during 2008 to 19, and a member of the Executive Committee of the International Commission for History of Mathematics, ICHM, during 2015 to 18. He was the first president of the Mathematics Teachers Association, India, during 2017 to 20. May I now request Professor Dani to please take the podium and deliver his address.
Good afternoon, all the dignitaries, workers and staff of the Indian Statistical Institute, students and guests. It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you on this occasion. I've visited ISI numerous number of times. I've actually lost count of how many times. The first starting from 1978, long way back, when I was here to give for 2 months to give a course in one of the advanced topics in mathematics at the Statistics Mathematics unit. I worked in ergodic theory, which is just some closeness to probability and statistics in some way, so in a sort of interface manner, and that was the beginning of a kind of a very pleasant association over the years. And subsequently, I also served on the technical advisory committee, which brought me here on several occasions. There were also various other short visits for giving lectures, conferences, etc. And this invitation, this particular event somehow tops it all. I think it's going to be unique and memorable. Of course, all my earlier visits, I've enjoyed the affection and love of the faculty members with whom I was associated, and also been able to absorb a good deal of distinct features of ISI as compared to various other institutions that I have had the benefit of being associated with or knowing in some capacity or other. Now, as I said, the particular thing is all the more special. In some way, it caps it all. And the last 2 hours, well, almost 2 hours, have been highly educative. I mean, it's when I had the invitation and had the idea of what I was going to talk about, etc., about the concept of how it will be, I had imagined something quite different from what actually came out. I mean, in such an situation, most institutions, the people will talk about good things and how well we are doing and how we are being appreciated and so on. And it's the first time here I found that we are not only celebrating what was done, but looking into the future, looking at the problems and people speaking out their mind, which is something which I find very distinctive, very a really useful feature for an institution. As I said, I have been visited here numerous times. Some of the recent visits have been for some memorial lectures, and one of them in memory of one of my good old friends, Somesh Chandra Bagchi, whom I am sure many of you would have known, and that was one of the occasions. And incidentally, I also had the benefit of Somesh in other ways, apart from the academics, and which sort of brings in Mahalanobis and ISI. Now, as was mentioned, apart from mathematics, over now, at least for the last 2 decades or so, I've been interested in a history of mathematics. And in particular, it also took me to, sorry, let's go back. Yeah. Took me to, I happen to be editor of Ganita Bharati, which is the bulletin of Society for History of Mathematics. And Ramesh had given a talk on ISI at one of the conferences, and I requested him to provide it in a written form as an article for Ganita Bharati, and which he did. And as you might know, he actually was very sick towards the end, and he passed away. He passed away in October 12th. Before that, for almost a year, it was a very painful life. But it was during this period that he actually wrote the article on ISI, which of course inseparably is inseparable as far as the early part that he talks about with Mahalanobis, and the article is published in Ganita Bharati, which is the bulletin of the history of the Society for History of Mathematics that I mentioned. Now, of course, there's another reason why I feel this occasion is special. Firstly, of course, as we all know, we are celebrating the 132nd birthday of P.C. Mahalanobis. And apart from that, it's also that I find it very notable that it's being celebrated as Workers' Day. So, and it's something that I find very, very appealing. Yeah. So over the years, of course, right from the early visits, I've been aware of the different work culture here with important role and recognition associated to the workers as a whole, the community as a whole, and in the sense that this particular event manifests is a symbolic of such an ecosystem, that makes it special. Now, as has been emphasized, I mean, sort of truism now by now, that for an institution, it's always good. It's necessary that periodically one goes through a review of one goes into a celebration as well as looking into one's the requirements for the future. And so, of course, the birthday of Mahalanobis is certainly a very apt occasion for this to choose for a year, and it's very it's something that to celebrate the collective engagement of in the team spirit that one has that has been. Now, about ISI and Mahalanobis, and a lot of things have been said. But let me, it's probably not going to be worth for me to repeat some of the things that have been said here. Let me just make a point that, as you by now, I have already said that I have developed an inclination to sort of think like a historian, and in most cases, I mean, I know about various people, mathematicians, scientists, and various other people. In most of the cases, certainly the work they're admirable. I honor them greatly, but in a certain sense, I understand that how they worked, how it happened. It's kind of they did something great, but I can also see that they were sort of positioned to do something that great thing. It was doesn't come. I mean, it's something that, in a certain sense, one can understand. On the other hand, when I think of Mahalanobis, it's really very hard to even. I mean, it's difficult to see how things would have happened at that time. Here is a person trained only in physics. He returns to India, takes up a position teaching physics, and yet he does statistics or something that had no background here. It just depends on such set of volumes of biometrica and maybe a few other things. He studies the subject himself, and in a matter of few years, he just becomes a pioneer. It's almost as if he has created a universe out of nothing. Vishwakarma, something. This is something remarkable, a miracle in some sense, which I find very hard to understand in this case. I hope I have conveyed what I mean. I will not dwell more on the same theme. So, of course, there were various manifestations of this. I mean, the statistical analysis of rainfall for the control of floods, etc. Many of the things have been mentioned. I don't think I need to repeat. Maybe something like some things might come up in my tribute that I'm going to present for which I'm going to use the slides. But so that's my preamble. So yeah, now let me just conclude with maybe I'll add some more remarks as I go along. But now let me start with the little tribute that I have prepared for Mahalanobis for this occasion. Now, this picture which you happen to see just now also, because some mistake in pressing keys. So I'm sure many of these pictures, I'm sure you would recognize, you would have seen, and that's it's not the point. It's I'm just bringing them back to your mind. Not that I have no claim for bringing them as original. This place is, of course, as you all recognize, is the laboratory where the ISI was founded in the year 1931 on the 17 October, as you all know. So in a way, it's kind of modest, but on the other hand, it still has a certain meticulousness about it. It's going to it has sort of one feels that this is going to evolve into something that we're going to be proud about. So that's the from the place in the Presidency College where the ISI was founded. Let me go further. Here I'm bring to you something from the article of Somesh Chandra Bagchi that I mentioned. The transition from statistical laboratory to the institute, still a one-man show, signaled the taking up of a whole range of activities within the next 2 or 3 years, which was, now he says, qualifies it as far as can be ascertained, without any sense of tentativeness. I mean, it was clear. I mean, that there's a certain sense of definiteness. We're doing this. We are going to continue. This is going to evolve. I mean, there's nothing tentative. It's not that. It's not be trying. Maybe if it works, maybe it's not that. There's no tentativeness. That's of course these are words from Bakshi that I already clarified. Now, statistical analysis of data that had brought quite some recognition in the previous decade continued as before. So let's emphasize that ISI was not born out of nothing. There's a certain gestative period, and he puts it at previous decade. So of course, Mahalanobis was growing as in stature and as a statistician, and there's a moment of birth which is manifest in the birth of the Indian Statistical Institute. That's how I read this. A report favoring there's just an illustration, a report favoring the construction of a dam and opposing the other engineering solutions that had been proposed to control the flood of Mahanadi after painstaking analysis of rainfall data from the region had only recently been given to the Orissa government. I'm sure all of you are familiar with this. We'll not dwell more on that. Let me follow this with, this is a picture of, I don't know if you can read it. Let me read it for you. This is with R.A. Fisher with the institute workers during the visit to ISI at the premises of Presidency College, Kolkata. The ISI was still in Presidency College at that time, I believe. Yeah. So, and here you see this person, R.A. Fisher, the very renowned statistician who was who had played a big role in the in supporting the Mahalanobis in the initial years of the ISI. And it's interesting that to find a picture of Fisher together with, of course, next to him you can see Mahalanobis himself and the rest of the a lot of the workers. So I see a certain collective spirit already in those days in in ISI. So the next picture, well, the main point of this is to see him with our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. It was already mentioned that he was the great friend of Jawaharlal Nehru and had great support from him. And of course, there was also the whole context of planning the international sample surveys, etc., in which the two were served as a pair in some way. So that's the picture with Pandit Nehru. Now, this is another thing which was already mentioned. It's the PC Mahalanobis at the installation of a Russian computer at ISI on 2nd April. Sorry, there's a typo there. It's 1956, of course, as you all know. Now, compared to all the way the computers have evolved, now we even have stuff in our pockets which serves for the purpose. But at the time in 1956, so really not so long ago, less than a century, 56, if you make the arithmetic, it's about 70 years, less than 70 years. Things have changed, but this was one of the crucial moments which was to develop into the later computer works, and so something to sort of I think in her opening remarks by Dr. Soumyanitra Munshi mentioned that let's for the next 2 hours remind ourselves and pay homage to Professor Mahalanobis. And I think this is one feature which should come back to our mind, that it's bringing the computer. This is another picture with Chou En-lai. So here I want to emphasize that it was going international in various ways. Of course, there's also Russian participation, but I chose this picture. Here is another picture. The person in the picture, I don't know if you see the thing, the baby, is the renowned professor Niels Bohr, of physics. So Bohr, Nobel laureate and director of the Institute of Theoretical Physics, and the photograph is from his visit to ISI in 1960. And this picture is again something that I like. It says it's PC Mahalanobis sitting at a table and speaking to ISI workers, and this picture is from 1957. Of course, as was recalled, the formal structure of ISI it was modified between 74 and 76 to make it officially a certain collective body and involving all participation. But when one sees in its even in its early avatar, the sense of collective spirit that's manifest in some of these pictures. Incidentally, while I was sitting, and it just occurred to me that the 74 to 76, the midpoint, we like averages, it's 75, and it's almost exactly 50 years since then. So vaguely we are celebrating half a century of that event. I'm not going to the Oh, I think this is the wrong file. Okay, so now let me give me back. Sorry, there's been a little mistake or whatever. Now they threw in the two more slides, and somehow this file does not have that. And so instead, I'm going to read them out. read out what I had on that. And first is a quotation from Mahalanobis himself. This is the one point that I have been stressing almost every year. I realize more and more as I grow older that the Institute has been strong when the workers did their work as a team with a cooperative spirit. I'm quoting leaving some part after that. In the history of the Institute, we have always found that when the workers were united, external opposition was perhaps the greatest stimulus, the greatest challenge to progress. So, I mean, in the course of last 2 hours, we heard about various difficulties, tensions, and so on. And I think one has to look for a solution, look for an attitude solution. Here is something that we need to keep in mind. So that in the history of the Institute, we always found that when the workers were united, external opposition was perhaps the greatest stimulus. But the difficulties are, in fact, to invigorate you to resolve the issues. So, of course, there are, I mean, as we all reviewed in the review, we saw that there are a variety of difficulties. Funding is a problem, cohesion is a problem, and so on. But if all the constituents come together, commit themselves to come together, resolving the solution has to be possible. There is no alternative to it, and there is an assurance from none other than Mahalanobis that so long as you have unity, so long as you have commitment, ideas would come, ideas should come, by which we can come to come to make collective decisions, decisions which sort of come by some consensus to resolve the issues. The funding issue, of course, there are external agencies involved, but so long as we have you have the commitment, it should be possible. There must be one or other way to resolve the problems that come. Okay, let me leave that aside with that. And here is another quotation from another director from SAT. And you would probably guess, I'll leave it to you. No, maybe I'll leave it, read the name at the end. The country's biggest problem of the coming decades is not the challenge of war, but of peace. This part perhaps needs some correct, we might need to rethink about it. But anyway, that's a preamble in which the second part is going to be based. The battleground of the future is going to be economic and social welfare. This part remains correct, where we have to fight hunger and deprivation afflicting the society. We now have additional problems with the fact that the world is not entirely peaceful, but we can come together with this. Our success will depend on acquiring and processing the information needed for optimum decision making, by which the available resources, both in men and material, are put to maximum use for improving the quality of life of individuals. This has to be done in a way that is equitable and sustainable, with particular care to see that no irreversible damage is done to the biosphere. In achieving this revolution, statistics will be the key technology, or technology for shaping a new world through peace. Now, maybe you have guessed the name of the director. It is Professor C.R. Rao. This was said in 1989. So I think with these optimistic words and with the best hope for all of us, ISI and all the country and maybe even the world for which everything needs to be in good shape. I'll conclude my few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dani. We've been hearing a lot of problems and difficulties, hurdles, and coming to the concluding part of the program, we see some bit of light, some bit of optimism, some bit of positivity, and maybe we'll overcome, words of Mahalanobis coming through you in your talk, and maybe we'll overcome, and C.R. Rao, maybe we'll overcome some of these hurdles in the coming days, standing united and in harmony with each other as an institute. We move forward and bring back the days of glory again. So thank you very much. Mahalanobis first met Rabindranath Tagore in 1910 at Shantiniketan when he was 17, just finishing college. The poet, then 49, was at the pinnacle of his poetic journey. In spite of their age difference, their relationship was one of friendship, mutual admiration, love, and respect. In a letter to his future wife Rani, Mahalanobis wrote, "It will be wrong to say he is my guru. I love him," is the right expression. What better way to remember Mahalanobis than to imbibe some of the timeless creations of Tagore? May I now request ISI Club again for their performance. And participating on behalf of ISI Club with us today morning, those who performed the Rigvedic hymn also are Monali Mitra Palodhi, Obhijit Ganguly, Minu Das, Srimoyi Bhaumik, Sanchari Ghosh, Amrito Roy, Srijan Chatterjee, Dipankana Banerjee. Please bear with us for a couple of minutes as they're setting the stage for the songs.
লাগানো হয়ে যায়। মাইক সেটা করতে পারেন একটা মাইক can be here.
Thank you very much for the wonderful performance. And Professor Dani, the first song was Amar Matha Noto Kore Dao He, means let us bow to the Almighty. And the next song, Bohe Nirantaro Anando Dhara, is let us try to be part of the infinite, endless, never ending, continuous happiness that's flowing all around us. So thank you very much for the songs, and just introducing the participants once again. On the tabla was Prantar Karmukar, very nice performance. On the harmonium was Monali Mitropalodhi, who sort of led the team of the performers. The others, Obhijit Ganguly, he's senior engineer, and the others are staff and students. I'll just say their names. Minu Das, Srimoyi Bhumik, Sanchari Ghosh, Amrita Roy, Srijan Chatterjee, Dipankana Banerjee. Thank you very much. May I now request Chief Executive Officer, Administration and Finance, Mr. Ravinder Kumar, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. It has truly been an honor and privilege to be part of this remarkable and meaningful occasion. On behalf of Indian Statistical Institute, I extend my heartiest gratitude to everyone who contributed to making today a grand success. Our sincere thanks to our esteemed dignitaries, our chief guest, the distinguished Professor Sri Krishna Gopal Rao Dani, our special guest, Professor Manoranjan Pal, our respected director, Professor Sanghamitra Bandyopadhyay, Dean of Studies, Professor Vishubharta Pradhan, Vice President of ISI, Dr. Kuntal Ghosh, and our friends from the media. We are deeply grateful for your presence and your valuable contribution to this event. A warm and wholehearted thanks goes to the reception committee, ISIWO, and in charge of the various divisions and units, including estate, civil engineering, and electrical maintenance, audiovisual, public relation, printing and publication, director's office, and the library for working tirelessly. A big round of applause to all the participants whose enthusiastic involvement made this celebration truly memorable. Finally, to all of you gathered here today, thank you for your time, your presence, and your support. Wishing everyone a joyful Workers' Day and a Statistical Day. Let us continue to celebrate this spirit of dedication, knowledge, and community that the Institute stands for. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Thank you all for your gracious presence this morning. May the nucleus of light show us the light forever. Please stand up. We conclude this program with the national anthem. Thank you.
সব বলো